Welcome to the ArmaniTalks YouTube channel. I'm your host, ArmaniTalks. In this channel, I'm covering communication skills for you to level up your way with words and become much more articulate. In today's episode, I'm going to be talking about how to feel comfortable in your own skin. And I don't mean this in a very mental sort of way. I mean this in a very practical way. Because during my time in Toastmasters, one thing that I noticed when I was one of the guest members who didn't want to introduce himself, you know how the clubs are. They're like, we're going to go around the meeting right now and have our guests introduce themselves. I didn't want to do it because I felt when I'm over here standing, bringing all this attention to me, that I looked ugly when I was speaking. But each time that I spoke, each time the members were like, cool, on to the next guest. So it wasn't that big of a deal. Once I went from being a guest to an actual member, what happened was the fear now was a little bit different, but in many ways the same. At this time, when I was center stage giving a speech, I didn't like to be silent. I didn't like to be silent because I felt as though whenever I was silent, the audience members were looking at me in a very judgmental sort of way. So for future speeches, I would start to speed up. And that's when the evaluator for the meeting would be like, Armani, slow down. Once again, I realized that there was some sort of fear in terms of looking ugly that was altering our speech pattern. It's very important to feel comfortable in your own skin, or at least work upon that in order to improve your communication skills. I want to tell you a story about zoning in on what you're capable of zoning in on and undermining what you don't have much control over. By doing this, you build your confidence, and by building your confidence, your speech pattern sounds much more eloquent. If you're ready to listen to the story, go on and drop that like for me right on below. You ever had that one moment when you were a little kid and you looked up to someone? This other fellow would, let's say, had some stuff, some characteristics that you admired. I had this one person. Let's go ahead and call him Sami. When I was, say, 7 years old, Sami was 14 years old. He could play basketball, he was in shape, and he had a certain level of charisma. But one thing Sami had that I really wanted was his hairstyle. See, when I was a little kid, I had the same hairstyle as I do right now, a comb over. While Sami, his hair looked a little different. It was one of those hairs where it was pushed back. You know what I'm saying? It's like if you ever watch one of those old school Hollywood movies, you'll know what I'm talking about. A very sleek, cool look. And I wanted that look. I was a pretty dorky kid, and I thought if I had that same type of hairstyle, then I was just 1 inch closer to being like Sami. So I went to Sami, and I was like, hey, how'd you get your hair like that? Every time I try to get my hair like that, it goes back into the comb over shape. That's when he said, well, what you need to keep on doing is you need to get your fingers and you need to keep moving it back, back, back. And eventually what's going to happen is that your hair is going to be fixed in that position. And I asked him, how much should I keep moving it back, back, back? And he responded by saying, as much as you can. So for the next couple of days, to the next couple of weeks, I kept doing this to my hair, right? And each time I did it, each time it would stay back for a little bit, but then it would come back to its original position. And each time it would come back to its comb over shape, each time I hated the comb over more. I'm like, how long is this going to take? I mean, I'm doing exactly what Sami told me to do, but it's not working. The weeks turned into a month, and by that month, I ended up going to get my haircut. I believe I went to a place called Cool Cuts, and I decided to console my barber about the problem. I was like, yo, barber, I'm over here moving my hair back, 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 and it keeps coming back to the side, side, side. What gives? And that's when this barber was like, Armani, don't you know? I was like, no, what? He's like, you have 3 cowlicks right on here. Your hair can't go back, back, back. You are stuck with the comb over. I was like, what? You gotta be kidding me, man. And the barber was like, I see this is something that bothers you. So what I can do for you is I can get you some gel. Gel will help you out in terms of keeping that shape. But here's the thing, Armani. The gel, I mean, it may make you sweat. I was like, that's it? Man, hook me up with some gel. And back then, they had these little levels on the gel. Level 1, level 2, all the way up to level 5. I got level 5. And that is when I was able to move my hair from the side to the back. And now I was 1 inch closer to Sami. I felt good. Well, I felt good for a bit. But then the barber proved to be right. He proved that, yes, you can change your hair shape, but unfortunately, what's going to happen, Armani, is that whenever you go outside, you are going to sweat. It's not going to feel good. So now, this was a big problem for a 7-year-old me. I was like, I have a decision to make. Do I stick with the gel route, or do I go back to my normal route in terms of the comb over? The comb over I enjoyed because I didn't have to put anything in my hair, no products needed, and overall it was good. But with the gel, I'm 1 step closer to Sami. I made a very difficult decision back then. I decided to stay with the comb over. But this time, when I came back to the comb over, I liked it a little bit more. I appreciated it much more. And the reason that I appreciated it much more was because it's something that I just had. It was so simple, but I just liked it more this time. I heard this famous scientist make this quote where he was like, there's no such thing as ordinary. If you begin to study ordinary, you'll realize that it's quite extraordinary. For example, what I'm speaking into right now, a camera. It's a very extraordinary piece of equipment once you actually understand how it works. And the thing was that I didn't feel comfortable in my own skin as a 7-year-old, and I wanted to be more like Sami because I kept undermining the ordinary. What I needed to do was zone in on the ordinary and to find the extraordinary within the ordinary. And each time that I was capable of doing that, each time I felt more comfortable in my own skin. That younger lesson eventually spilled over to my future self when I was in Toastmasters, and I realized that I was focusing a little too much on the things that I didn't have. I was looking too much for how to turn my hair back, 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 where in reality, there were plenty of things within the public speaking game in my Toastmasters club that I bought, and it was important to zone in on that. So if you're someone that's right now somewhat not feeling comfortable in your own skin, and this is actually altering your speech patterns, before thinking about doing something very extraordinary, you want to take some time and focus in on the ordinary. What is it that you're already good at? Some people have these little gifts that become so natural for them that they think that it's easy for others. One of my gifts is to generate talks very fast. I thought this was something that everyone could do. But once I was in my Toastmasters club, I realized a lot of speakers couldn't do that. I realized that when in Toastmasters, there's a thing called the back pocket speech. This is when one of the speakers drops out and the club needs another member to volunteer to give a speech in that particular meeting. So that's why they call it back pocket. You're basically pulling a speech out of your pocket that you made up on the spot that you have the courage to give in that meeting. I noticed that there were a few times that I was just volunteering to give the back pocket speech. And afterwards, others were like, how do you do it? Don't you get somewhat nervous just creating a speech out of nowhere like that? It takes me weeks to create a speech. And I was like, whoa, does it really? And they were like, yeah. So I realized that was my gift. Now with other people, they're very emotional. They know how to get on stage and cry. And this may be something that's like, oh, well, who cares? But if you feel raw emotion on stage and you're actually capable of crying, that's enough to sway the judges to take you from second place to first place. So that's a strange gift, by the way, but it is a gift nevertheless. And if you're capable of collecting all these little ordinary stuff that you have at your disposal, then you, my friend, will realize that there is no such thing as ordinary alone. Behind ordinary is where extraordinary lies, and you just need to bring conscious awareness to it. So the mindset and communication skills play a big role in one another. And if you would like more practical insights like this into improving your confidence and feeling more comfortable in your own skin, be sure to check out my book, Level Up Mentality, a guide to re-engineer your mindset for confidence. In this book, you are going to understand the importance of setting a North Star, a gargantuan North Star, by the way, the importance of taking a minimum of 1% improvements towards your North Star, practical ways to be more disciplined, how to unlock ambition, along with plenty of other practical topics to help you feel more confident. Check out the Level Up Mentality in the links in the description box, the pinned comment, or go on ArmaniTalks.com and grab your copy today. Thank you very much for joining the ArmaniTalks YouTube channel, and I'll catch you next time.